All right, time for another relaxation video. This one's going to be way different. So a lot of times people take it really seriously. So you seriously breathe really seriously. Maybe you're doing really serious yoga poses. And those things are all wonderful. You can really focus in and see what your intention is, but not all relaxation needs to be very serious. So I'm going to invite you to take off your shoes first. If you're in an environment where it makes sense to take off your shoes, all right? And I have a lot of years of experience of teaching therapeutic improv, which is basically improvisation, usually kind of on the acting side, the jokey side, to kind of help people really feel more confident, to play around, to not think they take things so seriously. Because when we take ourselves really seriously, we tend to get hard on ourselves, and we don't need to be. Life doesn't need to be hard all the time. And sometimes it can just be fun or goofy. And I know that's really hard as a teenager. Trust me, I was there once upon a time, and it's not easy to do embarrassing things. So maybe you're alone and in your room and not feeling too judged right now. But we're just going to do a little bit of a movement meditation, but a fun one. It's like a movement improv, we'll call it. So I want you to first just focus on your feet and moving them around a little bit. Just feel your body. You might feel your arms. Maybe just roll your head a little bit. Just be aware that your body's even there. And maybe you find a little bit of actual, like, bigger movement. Take up some space if you have it. So you can kind of think of this as dancing or swaying or stretching or whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that there's no right way to do this. All right? And now we're going to get a little improv-y with it. So that was its own kind of improv. But now I want you to try something a little bit different. I want you to focus on your hands. And we don't often think about all the different types of stories or movements our hands can make. But I want you to take a second and just play with all the ways that your hands can move, right? And your hands are connected to your arms and your elbows, so you can focus on just your hands if you're feeling really into just focusing on one piece and exploring that, or you can go a little bit broader. It doesn't really matter. And you can think about things like, if you were angry, how might your hands move differently? And if you were calm, would they move differently? But if you were really happy and ecstatic, will your hands move differently, right? So really have some fun with your hands. And then we're going to move out to like more of your arms and elbows. And now this time, instead of thinking of just emotions, I want you to think of what are some animals and how do they move? All right, so you might be thinking of like a cat, usually kind of slinks around, but maybe it bats some things here and there. You can think of like a robot, like how might a robot move if I were a robot? I'm not good at the robot, obviously, but you could play around with that. You can even pretend like you were a little shadow puppet. I don't know if you ever did that as a kid, but you have like bunnies and you have, I don't know, duck, is that what that was? So you can kind of play with that a little bit. And now I want you kind of to go more into your kind of entire body. All right, and so you might just explore with how tall can you reach and how low can you reach? How far can you go to the left? How far can you go to the right? If you were a professional dancer who was just naturally amazing, never had to try, how might your body just move if you were exploring the space? Maybe you're pretending you're in a much smaller space than you're actually in, and how might that change how you move? All right, so don't feel afraid to be a little goofy. I'm being goofy here, and this is recorded, and someone could totally use it against me, but who cares? All right, and now I want you to think about your face. We don't often think a lot about how our face moves, but it interacts with people a lot. Maybe just here during COVID, but this tells a lot of the story. So I want you to just, maybe you could look in a mirror for a minute and just notice, like, how many ways can your eyebrows move? What about your eyes themselves? Can they get really big? Can they get squinty? Can you close one and then the other? What about your nose? Can that move in some different ways? Flare in your nostrils. Can you bring your nostrils in? Lips, same thing. Can you look angry? Can you look happy? Can you look sad? Really play around with all the different ways your face can move. It's probably a lot more dynamic than you think it is, and you may not always look pretty, okay? Or handsome or whatever. You may look kind of scary sometimes. And those are all okay. So this was just a little bit of an experience into what might be movement improv. If you were to try this with a group of people or maybe with an instructor, you might go more into something a little bit more deep to kind of explore a certain emotion or to explore humor or storytelling. And a lot of times, a lot of people tend to overthink, and so they're spending a lot of time planning in their head and not being. And improv helps you just be, because you don't know what the person next to you is going to do, and so you're going to have to respond to them not knowing what they're already going to do, and you have to respond in a way that still tells a story. And so you really have to be in the moment, and you have to be involved in whoever the character is that you chose. So if right now I'm choosing, gosh, it's just like a really excited person all the time, and I always want to tell a story that's so amazing. Right? Someone goes, "Why are you so miserable today?" I'm like, "You can tell that I'm miserable." I have to go along with it. All right. So that's just a little bit of experience, and you can put on music. Sometimes that helps to explore a certain personality. Like if you have like an angry song that you really enjoy or a happy song you really enjoy, and you could just move your body around when you're alone in your own space when you get a chance, or with other people if you're feeling really funky, whatever you choose. But that's just one way to be really aware and present in the moment and help release some of your anxiety that isn't taking things so seriously. I hope you enjoyed. If nothing else, I hope you laughed at me a lot.